What's up, guys? Chris Morgan, FCA, University of Louisville. Welcome to our weekly podcast, In the Huddle, where we will bring in current or former athletes into this huddle, into this space, to have a conversation, to chop it up, to talk about what God has done, what He's doing, and what He will continue to do. I'm super excited about today to have one of our friends, Tori Dilfer Stringer.
Hey.
Welcome to our podcast.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Well, so a lot of people obviously know about you, especially in the sports realm, as far as being a standout volleyball, two-time All-American for our University of Louisville women's or volleyball team, member of our first Final Four team.
Yep.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Great. Raised in California.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about growing up in a family full of athletes. Dad, college quarterback, NFL quarterback, mom, collegiate athletes, sisters, collegiate athletes. What was it like to grow up in your house?
Competitive, for sure. Fast-paced, busy. I always joke it felt like we were a much bigger family than just us three girls and my parents, just because we were all doing multiple things. My dad was traveling so much, obviously. But yeah, very competitive, I think. My parents did a really nice job of tailoring that into, in a good direction rather than what it can easily become very negative and too competitive between me and my sisters. So I'm super thankful for that because I felt like, yeah, there were times all siblings are going to go at it, especially when you're playing. We all played the same sport. We were the exact same position, which my parents never imagined. So a lot of opportunities for conflict. But I'm really thankful for the relationships that I have with my sisters and that most of the time we chose to spur each other on instead of compete with each other. And I think that's pretty unique. And I'll just give a lot of credit to my older sister. I think she spearheaded that for sure. And so me and my younger sister really got to learn from that and had an awesome example. So yeah, I mean, we were just all sports all the time. But really just a standard of like, excellence, high achievement, but not because that's what was most valued. It was just, I think our parents saw the potential in all of us. And so their only expectation was that we gave our best. I don't think my parents ever once checked a report card. They never checked if I had missing assignments. If I did get a bad grade, I think I struggled in a freshman year biology class. And my parents just sat me down after and they're like, do you feel like you gave your all? And I said, yeah, it was hard. And they were like, cool, that's okay. As long as you truly gave your all, we're okay with that. And, and for the most part, it turned out to be pretty good grades and very few behavioral issues, that kind of stuff. But when those things did come up, it was just addressed. And I don't know, I just feel like it was as healthy as that competitive of a household could be. So I'm just super thankful for that.
Well, I have the blessing of knowing your family. Yeah. They're great people. There's a lot of things that I have grabbed from their playbook, so to speak, just about living their life and how they conduct their manners. But not everyone is used to growing up in a family where dad is a professional athlete. At what part did you realize, like, okay, my dad does something different than every other dad?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know if there was one moment that I realized it. We moved around so much growing up when he was still playing. And so when we were in California, it was actually a lot more stable than it was before because he retired. I think I was in about 4th grade, and then he starts working for ESPN. And as crazy as that was, because he's, flying out each weekend to Connecticut to, do studio stuff and then going wherever the Monday Night Football game is and then coming back. I mean, if he flew in, he took but he would get in early on a Tuesday morning after working all week. And he was at a volleyball game on Tuesday night, or he picked us up from school or whatever. And so I think I knew it was different because I knew that's not like what most of my friends were experiencing, but it never felt like it was different in a negative way, if that makes sense.
Oh, yeah.
And there's so much positive to it too. I never want to act like, oh, my dad was so busy, and it was like he was doing something pretty awesome. And then my mom, I think, just did such a great job of, like her job was us and the house and creating stability, and she just did a great job with that. And so I feel like it didn't feel that different.
Well, you have a strong dad, but you also have an incredibly strong, God-fearing mom.
Yeah.
And I've got a chance to just kind of watch and listen to some of raised in a sports world, sports family. Obviously, we talked about that. But at what part did you realize, okay, volleyball was going to kind of be my go-to, and what did that look like?
Yeah. Gosh, I think I officially like chose volleyball after my freshman year of high school. I was still playing basketball and I loved basketball. I wasn't as good as I was at volleyball. So I think I mainly at that time chose it for that. But I felt like it was always going to lead towards that, even when I was playing both, and I loved both equally. My dad's sisters grew up playing. It's huge in Northern California, all of California. But I mean, we were playing for one of the top clubs in the country consistently. And so great coaching, it was just kind of part of life. And so I think when I realized I was getting pretty good, and it just, I don't know, I honestly continued to grow to love it more. It just made sense. And my older sister chose it over swimming. She was a really awesome swimmer, and that broke my mom's heart because she was a collegiate swimmer. And so I think each of us individually just had that moment of, we realized that we were good at it, but we also really loved it. And so, yeah, I think I really chose it after my freshman year, but I mean, from probably 7th grade on, I knew it was probably going to be my future. And this sounds a little bit, now looking back, I was like, wow, I can't believe that was my assumption. But I think I just always assumed I would play college sports. Not that like, oh, I'm who I am, so I'm going to go. Like, I just knew I was going to be good enough if I chose to be, and I just was competitive, and I just felt like that was going to be my life. And so I think when that did start to come to fruition, recruiting started, it just made sense to me. Like, it just was like the path that I felt like I was always going to be on.
Yeah. Our daughter, Lainey, really last month was the first time that she really understood that there are other people on a college campus other than athletes.
I know.
I mean, she thought everybody just came to college just to play sports, not to study. So not only just a strong athletic family, but a strong Christian family where biblical principles were applied. And that doesn't mean that everyone in the family is perfect. We all know that. But the goal and the desire is to please Christ, and you have been one that has exemplified that onto the court. Your relationship with Christ spills out onto the court where you want to bring and give him glory. When did that start for you?
Well, I think like I heard it a lot growing up. You hear from my parents, from other, role models or mentors, that like anything you're doing is meant for the glory of God. That can be music, it can be sports, it can be teaching, it can be, anything. Ministry is not the only ministry, but I don't think I grasped that probably till later high school, honestly, like junior, senior year. And it still didn't have that great of a grasp on it. I think I just realized like, oh, this actually can be a really cool opportunity to give glory to the Lord, or, strike up conversations with other teammates. I think growing up in the Bay Area, I wouldn't say there was a strong church presence or, just Christian community. I went to a Christian school, which was awesome, and I'm so thankful for that. But most of my club teammates weren't believers or, weren't really introduced to it. And so I think it actually sparked some really cool conversations. And I was actually challenged. Like, I vividly remember a conversation with one of my teammates, our 18s club year, like our last year of club. And she just grew up really different than me and believed differently than me. And we had this really awesome conversation where I actually asked her, like, what do you believe in? Why do you believe that? And she asked me. And it was just really awesome. I think that was one, I'm looking back, I'm like, wow, that was a lot of maturity from her stance. Cause I think she actually sparked the conversation. I can't fully remember. But to be having those conversations at that age in a very respectful manner, I was really thankful to have experienced that. So, I don't know. I just think that's when it kind of started. And then in college, I was able to, get connected in community. My freshman year roommate was, just such an incredible person and God-fearing woman. And she really helped me with that and, helped me figure out like, how are you on a team where some of you might believe similar things and some of you might not, and you're also working towards the same goal. But then I know like that's just one goal. The main goal of my life is to, honor and glorify the Lord. Like how are we finding that balance? And so I think that's when I probably started like asking more questions about it, really diving into it. But
it really goes from your, from us, being raised, I was raised in a Christian home as well.
Yeah.
So it really goes where your faith now becomes your own.
Yeah.
You're starting to maneuver through these conversations.
sure.
And I know leaving high school, you was fortunate enough to go to TCU to play volleyball there. I know some people at TCU, you immediately get plugged in,
Yeah.
and then you leave. Well, you're searching for another place, I guess, to land that TCU just didn't play out for you. Why? Tell me how you leave the TCU and come to university. How did that go about happening?
Yeah, I think I didn't decide to transfer until pretty late into like Christmas break. And it was the first semester of the transfer portal being a thing. Before that, you had to get your release, and very different process than I think most people realize it was. And so it was a really unknown. And honestly, I mean, every time I talk about this story, the first thing I say is like, it didn't make, looking on the outside looking in, it didn't make a whole lot of sense for me to transfer. If you look at it from sports, like I had everything, quote unquote, everything. And there was just this longing. I was like, there's got to be something more. And I didn't know what more meant. I don't know if that meant volleyball. I didn't know if it meant there was this hole. And I remember being in Lake Tahoe with my family around Christmas, and it was the day after Christmas, and I couldn't sleep that night. And so I woke up and I was reading this book, The Circle Maker by Mark Batterson. And there's this one page, and it was like a light bulb went off. It was probably the only time in my life where it was the most clarity about something that God was clearly putting on my heart. And then my parents woke up, and I was like, yeah, I'm doing it. I'm calling coach today. I'm going to get in the transfer portal. And I think they were pretty scared. They were like, oh gosh, like, because there was a very good chance I didn't end up anywhere or somewhere that didn't seem quote unquote better. And so how Louisville came about, they actually were not looking for a transfer setter. They weren't looking for a transfer because there's no scholarship available at the time. I had a random connection from club volleyball that knew our coaches here, but they were still pretty new to coming here. They came in 2017, and it was beginning of 2019. And he kind of reached out to them saying like, are you guys looking for anybody? And they're like, well, we'd kind of be interested, but we just don't have a scholarship, like. I had one quick conversation with Danny, and it was kind of like, probably not going to work out. I'm looking other places. And then she calls me back a couple days later. It's like, hey, we actually just had a scholarship come available. Do you want to take a visit? I was like, yeah, let's do it. I had actually watched them play in the tournament the year before because they were playing against Illinois, and one of my best friends from growing up played there. And so I watched them. I was like, wow, like I loved the setter that was playing. I was like, she's good. Like I feel like she's been trained well. She actually had transferred in too around the same time in her career. And so I was like, she's getting good training. Like I know this could be a good spot. So I come on a visit, and I got to meet you, which was really cool. I thought that was just so awesome of the coaching staff to set that up, and so great for you. It was like on New Year's Day, like the worst possible time for a recruiting visit. But you showed up, and you got to meet me and my dad and talk, and you guys obviously hit it off with football stuff. And so that, I think there was a comfort in that. And then it just, I had that meeting with the coaches, and it, again, was a leap of faith because they told me, they're like, we don't really need you. We want you. We'd love for you to be a part of this team, but it's not like you're filling a hole that we've been looking for volleyball-wise. And I think, honestly, that honesty and then being so straightforward with me made me want to come here. And knowing that, like, no, I'm probably not really good enough to be a part of this program yet, but, like, gosh, I could be. And so that just drove me to it. And yeah, probably one of the most pivotal decisions.
I'm glad that happened. I'm glad in those divine moments where God just kind of puts things in motion in place where it's divinely meant to be. Your name and your family's name preceded you. And so, that definitely wanted to do that. I wanted to do that because I want to see the volleyball team compete at a level that they're competing at now. I also, as far as wanted Christian athletes to be on our campus.
Yeah.
And, to see that transpire in the way that happened was definitely God's doing.
For sure.
And even the position that you play, setter, like you are really there to set other people up for success.
Yeah,
and
that's
that inhibits who you are. You're very quick to give other people the praise. And from the moment you came on campus, you seized opportunities of making your team better, our athletic program better, our campus better. and you were part of some great teams in a sport when a sports culture that is probably dominated by football or basketball, possibly even male driven.
Yeah.
For you to come on some teams where Louisville volleyball is on the scene, like tell us about that. Tell us just about the success of Louisville volleyball and how much you miss those teams competing.
Oh gosh. That rise was really, I think it looked very unexpected to a lot of people. Like all of a sudden they had been a tournament team a couple years in a row, but hadn't been to the Sweet 16 since 2006 or something like that. Yeah. And, to come in our first year, we have the biggest upset in tournament history and we make it to the Elite Eight. We upset number 2 Texas. Like it seemed very unexpected. And yes, it surprised us in a sense. We come in unseeded. We upset WKU number 15 and then we go in and upset number 2. Like we were somewhat surprised by it, but at the same time you look back and it's like, well, we were preparing for that. We weren't preparing to just be a middle of the pack team in the ACC. We weren't preparing to, just, get out of the tournament in the second round again. Like we were really preparing for more. And that was top down. I mean, that was like our coaching staff, our support staff, like every single person in that program, just that was our vision. And it wasn't talked about a ton, but the way we were going about things, you just look back now and you're like, yeah, that we set a precedent that we were going to be different. We cared about doing things differently than we had in the past or any of us had been a part of before. And I got to come in around the same time as Anna Stevenson, now Anna Stevenson Hall. And gosh, I think she was just pivotal in all of that too, coming in and being so incredibly talented, but more than that, being just such a good person, such a good leader, such a just strong presence. The best way to just describe her is light. I think you would probably agree with that. Like she just brings this light and we were in the same class, we were roommates. And so that was so encouraging to me, like I just got to be a part of that group and her specifically. That was so, I don't know, something I'd never been a part of before. And so, yeah, we have that. And then, COVID season hits and that's tough. But at the same time, we still had this dedication to doing things differently. And I always thought of in my head, I was like, we're set apart. That was my dad's phrase is like, this family will be set apart for the glory of the Lord. We'll look different. I get emotional talking about it because I just see how God has used that in so many different times and on different teams and in my life differently. And it's humbling to think that hearing that from such a young age did really teach me to be okay with being different, if that makes sense.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, the phrase set apart, such a great phrase. And that's at anything, that you learn how to handle success. You're going to handle that. You're going to be set apart. Failure, setbacks, adversity, learning experiences. You've had those. A lot of people think that when you become a Christian, hey, your road is going to be golden. You're going to have success at everything that you do. But athletics teaches you how to handle that and to be. And you mentioned your family just set back. Obviously, 3 sisters, but you also had a brother. And that, man, I remember your dad talking about that early on. It's before I even knew you. And Tammy and I loved the name Trevin. And actually, if we had a son, we were going to name him Trevin Steele after Steele Harmon, but also just because I heard your dad talk about it. Tell us, because a lot of people don't even know that story. If you feel comfortable sharing that.
Yeah. We lost Trevin when he was 5 and he was 14 months older than me. So I was really young when it happened. So I don't think I definitely didn't have a full understanding of what was going on. My older sister was 7, so she had a little bit more of an understanding, and it probably affected her most at that age. But it felt funny because I felt like not having him affected me actually more later in life, like in high school. I'd be thinking about, I'm a sophomore, Trevin would be a junior. How fun would that be to be going, I'm already going to these football games because I have my friends playing, but like he'd probably be playing or, anything like that. And so I kind of started to wrestle with that. And that sparked a lot of just like, why? And so the questions that I'm sure my parents were asking, our family friends, the older people in my life were asking when he died, I was starting to ask later on. But what's cool about that is that I had a lot of voices to go to, really wise people to go to when I was dealing with that. Gosh, I knew this would happen.
No. Well, just even seeing how your dad handled that and still handles that. And I don't think it's something that you ever completely get over, nor do you ever want to get over.
Yeah.
But it's something that you learn how to cope differently.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, even watching your dad handle that, just in a family of all girls,
Yeah.
that there's something within a man that get to have a son.
Yeah.
And to live that and just seeing how your dad was okay not being perfect, but setting his eyes to the perfect one, being Christ, was an example to so many. But sports teaches you, or teaches us, taught me, teaches you how to handle adversity through that.
Yeah. I feel like the coolest thing my dad has spoken about and how it shaped his life is that the Lord has turned his pain into purpose. Like now he's coaching young men. And gosh, seeing that is really, really special. And I think that has definitely kind of set the tone for the rest of us that like, you're obviously going to feel that pain always, but the Lord can and does use that for purpose. And it is different for everybody. I think for my dad, it's very evident. Like, yes, he was meant to play football for a long time. He was meant to commentate for a long time, but he was meant to be a coach, and he pushed it off for a really long time so that he could be around for us.
Yeah.
And when he finally said yes to what the Lord was calling him to, that purpose has just flourished. And it's not easy. I talked to him last night. They're in the middle of camp and they're trying to rebuild a program, and it is hard. And you're dealing with things you don't want to deal with. a college football coach, they just...
Well, he's in his sweet spot. He's in his jam right now. And kudos to you girls and your mom especially. It takes a strong man to be in that, but it also takes a strong wife and daughters to come alongside and say, this is what my dad was created to do. This is his calling. So it's been a joy to watch that happen. You graduate and meet the love of your life. Your now husband, Ethan Stringer. I remember just praying for God to bring someone into your world that would complement you in areas, and to see God provide and answer that prayer through Ethan has been great. Ethan, former baseball player here at U of L. Tell us about your all's path. You're over a year now, right?
We're almost 2 years. No, we're over 2 years. Oh my gosh, yeah, we're over 2 years.
Yeah,
well, I get confused because we had the small wedding and then we had the big wedding.
Over 2 years. So over 2 years of being married.
Yeah.
You're a professional now, right?
Yeah, gosh. Sure.
So tell us about how you met, your walk, and just what God has shown you through marriage.
Yeah, we actually didn't really start to get to know each other until Ethan had actually started playing at North Greenville in South Carolina. He played here for 3 years and then there. And we knew each other. We actually only overlapped for a semester here and kind of ran in the same circle, same friends, but COVID hits and he's from Northern Kentucky, so he's around a decent amount during that time. Obviously, we're not meeting a bunch of new people, but we'd cross paths a little bit and kind of just kept in touch. And then I think at one point it was a little bit surprising. He asked if he could come visit, drive up from South Carolina before our season started, and just spend time together. And I was like, gosh, I mean, I guess if you want to drive 6 hours, sure. And just had a really awesome time. I remember we went to church with Claire Chassé together, and that was fun. And just kind of, I don't know, it was very unexpected at first, I think for both of us. And he just kind of continued to show that he wanted to pursue it and come up to Louisville. It didn't make a lot of sense. I was really in a spot where I was like, I'm really excited about this volleyball season. I'm loving being single, honestly. Like, I had so much time with friends and just, pouring into those relationships. So I really didn't want anything to disrupt that. Unless it was a healthy disruption that added to my life. I remember talking to my parents and my sisters and even friends just being like, if it adds to my life, I'll pursue it. But if it takes away from any of the good stuff that's already going on, I don't really want to. And I think he felt similarly, you know, like he was, even him making the trips was hard, but like he was, I don't know, he didn't feel like it was taking away from his baseball or from school or anything like that. And yeah, so we kind of just started and things happened pretty quick as, you know, we both finished up school and our seasons. And I remember telling him early on, I was like, hey, I'm going to play pro if the opportunities come up. Like if I have as good of a year as I want to, and I think I can, I'm going to play pro. And that meant going overseas at the time. And I told him, I was like, I mean, I obviously want to do that. You mean a lot to me. We were definitely at the point we knew at some point we wanted to take a next step and spend the rest of our lives together. But I was like, I just want you to understand, like, this is what I really, like, I know I meant to do this. And he was like, sweet. Like, let's, and I think probably now he'll laugh and be like, wow, I had no idea what that was going to mean. But he was all in with it. And I think that's all I ever really wanted was one, somebody that, you know, made the commitment that he was going to pursue me and in a God honoring way the whole, you know, throughout dating and then that both of our paths were going to line up to where I got to do what I loved and felt called to, and he would do the same. And I think it was the brunt of the travel and living a very unconventional life of once I went pro was definitely, the brunt was on him. Like it definitely was harder because he was called to do something very different than what a lot of young men at that age were called to do at the time. You know, like I don't like saying follow me around, but like he kind of was called to follow me and support me when, you know, like my example growing up was the opposite. My mom was called to follow my dad. They moved from California to Florida to, you know, as he begins his NFL career. And so it was different. And I think,
especially in that season,
For sure.
season of life, you know, I just remember talking with him about it's those selfless acts of kindness and understanding of what marriage is about. That it's not a 50-50. It's really 100-100.
Yeah.
You know, are you
That's a
willing
good
to,
point.
like, both of make sacrifices? And there was a season of sacrifice for him, and there'll be other seasons of sacrifice for both of you.
Yeah.
So you go overseas. Tell us about playing professionally. What was that like? And what is it like?
Yeah. So up until last year, opportunities to play professionally in volleyball were in Europe, Asia, Brazil, Puerto Rico, you know, anywhere but the US basically, which is really surprising with how popular the game of volleyball is and is still continuing to become in the States. But that was kind of just what we had seen for a long time. You kind of see the path of, you know, these are the best leagues. You want to get into these, you get an agent, you know, whatever. And yeah, so I went and started playing in Italy, which is widely regarded as one of the best, if not the best leagues. And so I felt really fortunate to do that and knew that it was going to be challenging. Like I knew there were two ways. I remember talking with my agent about this, and he was like, there's two paths you can go to start off. We can challenge you and go put you in the best league, and you're going to be, I like to say, refined by fire. Or, you know, let's go into a little bit less of a challenging league, get a year under your belt, feel comfortable. And he's like, there's no right or wrong path here. He's like, I'm going to suggest one thing, but I'm going to do whatever you want to. And I was like, no, let's do it. Let's, you know, get thrown into the fire and do it. And it was cool because Stevie was going to play in Italy that year too, which was awesome. So yeah, chose to do that. And I'm really thankful for that experience. I think in the moment I was trying to be grateful, but I just like couldn't get myself there because of how hard it was at times. And because I wanted to we had gotten married, a month and a half before we go to Italy. Yeah. And, you know, I think there was so much conflict going back and forth. I was like, how do I do this and do that? And I just had that sense of kind of guilt of like, gosh, I dragged him here. He doesn't really have that much purpose right now here. Like, how is he supposed to find what, you know, the Lord's calling him to do if I'm keeping him here? You know, that kind of conflict. And I don't think he didn't make me feel that way.
Isn't that crafty how the enemy can make you feel a certain kind of way?
Gosh, I remember, so many phone calls with both our families during that time of just like trying to navigate that, of like knowing that this is not from the Lord, but like, this is what we're both feeling so heavily right now. Like, how do we navigate this? And then on top of it, I go and I have a pretty serious injury in December, so the international season is like August to April or May. It's pretty long. And so we were just a little under halfway through and I get injured, and that injury led to the decision to come home and heal at home. Just not thinking, I was like, gosh, I just don't know if I'm going to be able to heal here and, be able to come back and do this well. And so I'm thankful for the support that I had from agent, family, friends, my team, even during that time. So I come back, and I think when people ask me about my overseas experience, I'm like, well, I think it was really tainted because of getting injured. It was hard before for sure, but I don't think the hard was all bad hard. Like a lot of it was building up a lot of really, just endurance and strength and working through adversity. And there was a lot of good in it too. Great teammates and good volleyball all the time, So I think it was very tainted getting injured. And that's, I think, what a lot of people don't understand is that I didn't really have to deal with many injuries in my career thus far. I knew it. I had a ton of teammates that had, close friends that had, and so I saw it, but I never experienced it. And I got it. After that, I understood. I was like, gosh, I can understand how this takes its toll on people. You lose your love for the game a lot of the time. You're not getting to be a part of everything. So I think I grew some empathy in that. But yeah, so came home and healed up really well at home, which was really nice. I think part of that was the emotional healing of being around some family, and then make the decision to go play in Puerto Rico. I was like, you know what? I think I want to try this again. I'm not like loving volleyball right now, but I didn't felt like I was being called away from it yet. And so I go to Puerto Rico, and gosh, that was like, it felt like coming to Louisville again. It was just a revival, and it wasn't easy. That's the thing. I mean, we start off this season and it's hard. I'm not playing well. I'm struggling. Ethan didn't come with me that time because we both decided he just needed to start working. So that's hard. We're not doing well as a team all of a sudden, but then some really cool stuff happened, and just one of those awesome stories of a team just deciding like, this is not going to be our story and we're going to change it. And we're going to, come together and make this happen. And I say we're going to change it. For me, I never knew it was going to be us, but I knew that we were being empowered through the Holy Spirit to, do something different. And we come back and win a championship and have just these amazing experiences. And so I don't know, I think I've had two very different experiences with international. But yeah, that life is different. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, you mentioned the huddle, and you mentioned the teams, and you mentioned just, that there's different beliefs, and there's different nationalities, and there are different circumstances, and there's all kinds of different things. And here you are, a Christian athlete. There may be some people watching that are a believer, and they're part of a team, or they're part of a company, or they're part of a staff that may not believe like them. How do you go in and be competitive?
Yep.
Be the best you can be. Stand strong to who you are and your beliefs, but at the same time, be respectful to other people. How do you do that?
I think I learned a lot about that in my time at U of L. I think our team just did such a fantastic job of accepting people as they came. It was very much a come as you are mentality. We're going to accept you, but at the same time, we're going to call you to be the best version of you, whatever that means, whatever you believe, whatever you grew up with, whatever you have in your tank, you're going to give it all kind of. And I think there's a misconception that as a Christian athlete, as a Christian in business, wherever, that you have to always be the nice one and soft about things. And there's a time and place for that for sure. And I think kindness, yes, we should always be kind, but I think there's a difference. I don't have to be, I don't just have to just accept things as they are. Like, I'm able to call people out and be called out, for most importantly, to be better at what I'm doing. Because I think for me, especially, I need to be able to be called out because I know I'm called to the highest standard of excellence, and excellence meaning whatever I have, it's for the Lord, and I'm going to give it every day. And if I'm not I'm cheating myself, but really I'm cheating other people of seeing the glory of the Lord, and I'm cheating him of glory, and I think for me, I really started to understand that, yes, I should be kind. I should be respectful. I can be positive, but I can be challenging and I can be challenged. And I think learning that has really helped because I remember growing up, I hated when the only time you saw a Christian athlete talk about the Lord was in a post game, like after a huge win saying this, God enabled us to do this, which there's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
But I hated that was the only time we see God on display in sports. And there's just so many other opportunities to put him on display that I just was like, I'm never going to be the athlete that just brings up his name after that. I'm going to bring up his name in that situation, but I'm also going to bring it up after a loss. I'm also going to bring it up when we're in the middle of something hard as a team, and I'm going to stand for something different, and I'm going to go about something differently. And I think the only way I was able to do that was because I had other people around me doing it too and challenging me to do it and know that I had made that commitment to myself and to the Lord. And so they were going to call me out for it. Tammy being probably the first. She just did such a fantastic job with our team, as she does with all the athletes, of meeting us where we are, telling us like, it's okay that you're struggling with this, or that, this is a sin that you're struggling with, but you are called to more, and I think just having that example and having other teammates doing it in, Stevie and Emily and Claire and Piper and Lexi, so many different people part of this program that have really just set the tone. Gosh, it was just like, it almost felt easy because I had those other people doing it,
I can imagine doing life without people.
Oh my gosh, no. Especially like on a team, like team sports I think they're just the best because of that. I know myself and I would never survive in an individual sport or an individualized sport because I need the people around me. And I know those people have their people too, but gosh, I know I'm the best version of myself when I'm around other people chasing after the same thing. And
that's so good.
And
you said called for more. Your family set the motto as far as being set apart. It's those phrases and those, I don't want to say cliches because they're not. They really become the fabric of who you are. Can be lived out biblical principles within a team.
Yeah.
And hey, we're going in the same direction and we're going to win.
Yeah.
I love what the Bible says, to run in such a way that you may win.
Yeah.
Now everyone's not going to win, but we're going to run.
Yeah.
As like we're going to win a prize. I've said on all of these episodes or shows that we have, about a relationship with Christ. Who would you say Jesus is to Tori Dilfer Stringer?
I think he's become a friend. I definitely did not view him as that early on in my walk, or even when I chose, that this was going to be something that I, followed for my life, on my own. But I think I'm learning a lot to, run to him as a friend. I've had such great friends in my life. And so I have that example of what a friend is to be, but he's the ultimate example of it, And so I think seeing him in that way has really changed my perspective. But then also knowing that I have the power of the Holy Spirit living inside of me, and he and Jesus and the Father are all one, and they all serve the same purpose, but in different ways in our lives. And I think viewing that, knowing that it's like I try to relate it, like I have friends that I run to for this. I run to my sisters for that. And I run to my parents for that. I run to Ethan for this, a mentor for that. And I trust those voices because I know they're all connected with the Lord, and, they're going to give me good wisdom, but I might need a different voice at a different time. And I think I've learned to, that like I can run to God with all of that. I'm going to get the best from him, but there's also like something we said of, at times I'm going to need a friend in Jesus. At times I'm going to need to be empowered by the Holy Spirit. At times I'm going to need to be disciplined by the Father, or, taught by the Father. I think it's just, I think I view him in so many different ways now, and I'm thankful for that. I don't want to ever put him in a box, and I think for so long I did. But sports, I think, has been the catalyst to teach me that he's not a one-dimensional God. Gosh, he does so much. He's above and beyond anything that we can even comprehend and imagine. And I think that he's used sports as the catalyst for that. I don't even want to say understanding, because I don't think I'll ever have a great understanding of who he is. We'll never understand him fully, but I know there's so much more I will learn about him, and we'll learn about our relationship and all of that. But I think he's just used volleyball to open up things that I just didn't realize like a game could be used for, like I just was like, oh,
That's
he cares about
the whole reason for FCA
Right.
is to taking athletics and talk about having a relationship with Christ. Those are fantastic things. There's so much that we could talk about. We never run out of material.
Yeah.
We run out of time, and we're not on a time crunch. But like, looking back, what do you feel like, knowing what you know now, and the experiences that you've went through? If you could like have a conversation with a 10, 12, 16, 18-year-old Tori Dilfer, what would you say to your younger self if you know it now?
Such a good question. A lot of things, but I think the overarching thing is that I would just remind her, like, your life is not your own, and that's a good thing. Like, volleyball is not your own. Your talent is not your own. Your work ethic is not your own. It is all a gift from the Lord, and that's so much better than it being your own. Like, I think we live in a world that success and achievement and all these things and, self, I don't even know what to call it, like projection or, all it's about self, and it's praise to be, to have done something on your own, to be independent. And I'm as independent as they come. Like, my husband will tell you that. But dependence on the Lord is the only way through, and an understanding that he's given me this game, this life, this, just the people in my life. He's given that to me. I could never earn anything. I could never earn his forgiveness. I could never earn the salvation that I know I have. It is a gift, and the purpose of it is him, his glory, his kingdom. That's a big thing I think that I've learned, is kingdom building is what we're all called to in different ways. And yeah, so I would just remind her and anyone that, like, we're called to steward all of this really well. And even in the hard, you're still called to steward it as well as you are when it's easy and when things are going well and all of that. And so I think just having the humility to understand that, like, I've done nothing to earn this. My name isn't even my own, like, it's his name should be ultimately glorified because it's from him.
Yeah, so good. So good. Tell us what, as we start to wrap our time up, what does a quiet time look like? People grab the Bible. The Bible can be very intimidating. What does it look like for you to grow in your walk with Christ? What does it look like for you to have a quiet time with him, so to speak?
Yeah.
What does that look like for you?
Yeah, I think I was always somebody that needed guidance with quiet time. I understood the importance of it. I saw great examples of it from my parents. But I needed guidance. I couldn't just open up my Bible and be like, all right, here we go. And so usually some kind of a devotional book. I mean, Tammy gave us New Morning Mercies my junior year, I think. And I mean, that I've read it probably 3 times through now, and I'm still learning something new. I'll see my old notes on a page from when I read it last year or whatever, and something new will pop out, which I think is just beautiful. And it's a great book, but some kind of guide, whether I'm going through a book with a friend. Stevie and I have gone through multiple books together. And even when we were living overseas, we did what were we going through? I think we went through Romans, and we text each other and, challenge each other. So I think quiet time for me is being in that time with the Lord, but also knowing that it's not just those 20 minutes or those, sometimes it's 5 minutes, sometimes it's an hour. It's not just that time. It's that time is meant to prepare my day to, seek after him, do everything, be in line with his will, I think is the biggest thing. Is like my prayer most mornings is help me, like, align me with your will for today, for my future, for this decision I have to make in my marriage, like all of that. And I think that's the hardest thing that I face constantly, is remaining connected with him to be in his will, not for my own good, but so that my life is in line with his. So yeah, usually a guided devotional, and then read some scripture and, try to actually get quiet with the Lord. That's the hardest part for me,
so hard for me
is
too.
get quiet with him, pray, but also understand that like it doesn't look the same every day.
That's right. Well, tell us now, just catch us up. Just what are you doing now?
Yep.
What's that look like? Maybe some hopes, dreams, aspirations that maybe you have.
Yeah. Still chasing the dream, still playing. So super, super blessed to be playing in the States now. There's now 2 leagues in the US, which I just think is awesome. Like 2 pro leagues is just fantastic. Way more opportunities for us to be home. So I play for the Columbus Fury up in Columbus, Ohio. I'm super pumped to go back to that team. We have some major unfinished business, which is exciting. I get really fired up thinking about it. And to be fully honest, like I'm coming off a pretty like disappointing year. Not even just like, yes, as a team, but like me personally, and which is hard to deal with. Probably the first time I've dealt with that in a while. So it's shaken me a little bit. It's tough, but gosh, there's like this fire lit. Like I'm pumped. I'm training right now, which off seasons can be hard. Like it's so nice to, have time with family and friends. I get to go see my niece and nephew this weekend. Like that's awesome. But man, I just want to play, like I just want to get back to playing and competing. And especially when you're coming off a year where you're like, I know that I'm better than what I put on the court. And, but it's also about the process, I'm enjoying the process of getting better again, which I think is really exciting. So yeah, still training here in Louisville, which is awesome. Have just such a great relationship with the coaching staff still, to where they're able to help me get in the gym and just get better still, which is amazing. And then, we'll head up. Our training camp starts in December. So I'll head up to Columbus and then we kind of break around Christmas and come back and start playing early January. So I'm fired up.
Well, we're excited for you. We are Columbus Fury fans now because you are. And man, we Tammy and I love you guys, and we're so proud of you. Thanks for continuing to pursue Christ at what He's called you all both to do, and doing it with excellence, and continuing to be set apart. And man, I'm just super, super proud of you. So thanks for coming on our show. I know that you've been an encouragement to many people, and even us as we watch you guys grow and continue to be what God's called you to be. So thanks for coming on our show.
You guys are the best. We talk about it all the time. We don't know where we'd be without you guys. Both our sets of parents individually have said they're so thankful that we have you guys, and that they feel confident not being in the same city as us or being all around us all the time, because they know that we have great, wise, and God-fearing voices to go to. And
that means the word to us. So keep making Him known, and love you guys. Thank you.
Love you. Thank you.